today. And a good example is here with the Battle Cross and Jeffrey Witzett's flag, and quite a tribute to a fine young man who was lost. At this time, without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Michael Cogdill.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be here. Honor beyond words. How many veterans are in this place, first of all? Veterans, hold up your hands. Stand up, vets. Stand up, would you? Stand up, hold up your hands. Oh, my goodness. Per capita in this room, that's a lot. We are surrounded by greatness, ladies and gentlemen. Veterans, there are two words that will never be said often enough in this great country, this great experiment in democracy. The greatest that ever has been or ever will be, these United States. Those two words are thank you. But more important than that, thank you for what you did. Thank you for what you were willing to do when you put on the uniform. And thank you for what you live with. Thank you for what you live with. Give it up for them, ladies and gentlemen, would you? Thank you. I was telling Jeffrey Witzett's parents a moment ago at the Vietnam War Memorial just a few scant months ago, having flown up there with a plane load of mostly World War II vets, those beautiful men. They truly are beautiful. We're losing them at a rate of almost 1,000 a day now. And there were a few Vietnam boys along for the ride, along to have their part, to take their part in that honor. They don't get nearly enough of it. One of them, a guy named Andy Burley, and believe me, he lived up to the name. The big handlebar mustache, had flown helicopters in Vietnam. We stood there at the War Memorial, and he had heard one of those World War II vets weep his heart into a microphone, into a camera. Speak things out loud that he had kept to himself for the better part of 65 years. And he said to me something that I say to you now, and I hope you take, this is the takeaway, you take this home with you. He said, you will never die if you are remembered. You will never die. There's immortality in remembering. There is an immortality in a thank you. It's a young lady named Carmen running around here. She's about 4'6". But I told her she's got a spirit that's 35 feet tall. There she is. You see that? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where the soul came from in this child. This child is going around dedicating portions of her life she will never get back to say thank you, to remember, to make sure that she remembers out loud to veterans, you are loved. Can I get a round of applause for Carmen, by the way? Carmen, thank you for remembering. Thank you for being such a tiny thread in the American fabric and yet part of what holds us together. A very quick story here. I tell this everywhere I go, where there's a veteran in the room. It's unstoppable. Meals on Wheels is a wonderful organization, ladies and gentlemen. It serves so many elderly, infirm people, and yes, many, many of them are vets. I was to shoot a PSA, a little public service announcement for Meals on Wheels. I ended up over in West Greenville in a little house of a little man, lived alone. George Campbell was his name. We shot this thing, it took about 15 minutes, and I noticed on the back wall of Mr. Campbell's house there was a shadow box, very much like Jeffrey Witzett's. There was a purple heart in the middle of it, and there was a bronze star. I said, Mr. Campbell, with all due respect, sir, I would love it if you would explain to me the significance of that shadow box on your wall. He looked down for a long time, standing there on a cane, elderly, sweet, beautiful little man. He looked up and his face was wet and he said, son, it was almost 60 years to the day that I set these 2 feet on a place General Eisenhower called Omaha Beach, D-Day. Mr. Campbell, turns out, was an Army medic on D-Day. He said, you know, I made the mistake of telling the United States Army I wanted to be a pharmacist one day. He said, they took my sidearm away from me, put a cross on my shoulder, and told me the Germans wouldn't shoot at me. He said, that, son, was a lie. And then he got his face wet again. I don't believe he had talked about this for years, maybe for almost 60 years. He said, you know, I got onto that beach, and all of this hell is raining from those Nazis off that hill onto us, and I expected to lose my life any minute. I got to that first boy, and he had what we called a spurting wound of the chest. He said, I got down close to him, and all hell breaking loose, and I got him up next to my ear, and I noticed he had something in his hand, and I looked, and it was a picture of a girl. He had a girl in his hand. He had gotten off the boat and gotten through the surf with a picture of a woman. He said, I don't know if it was his mama or his girlfriend or the one he wanted to be his girlfriend, but he whispered to me, Doc, you've got to get me home. I have got to see her again. Mr. Campbell said, I just knelt there with him, expecting to get hit any minute, but I didn't, and stayed there with him until he died. And I went to the next one, and the next one after that, and the one after that. And there was a long pause. And Mr. Campbell, Army medic, U.S. Army, World War II, D-Day, said, every one of those boys I got to on that beach that first day died on me. I didn't get a solitary one of them home. They all died. I could tell, ladies and gentlemen, there was a sense of failure in this man. He felt that he had failed his country. He felt that he had failed those men. He felt that he had failed the cause. And he had come home, finished his pharmaceutical education, worked for a living, built a life, built a family, and he quietly lived with it. I went on the air that night on television, ladies and gentlemen, and I said many words that have no significance at all. I talked about the sundry felons we talk about every night. I don't remember any of them. But I remember this. I got the opportunity, the God-given opportunity to say to Mr. Campbell that day, sir, did it ever occur to you, because of your valor, because of your courage, sir, not one of those boys on that beach in that heroic time, not one of them, thanks to you, Mr. Campbell, died alone. Not one. They died with America up in the eyes of a medic from Greenville, South Carolina. That's how they died. That is not just worthy, Mr. Campbell. That is heroic. This young man, equally heroic. He did not come home on his own 2 feet, ladies and gentlemen. But he is alive. He is alive in his legacy. He is alive in how he is remembered. He is alive in how he is celebrated. Ladies and gentlemen, he is alive. He lives in the breath you will draw to thank his mama and his daddy who are in this room right now. Would you please make welcome, with every bit of noise you can make, the parents of Jeffrey Whitsett. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. Make them feel loved. Let them know that you love them. Let you know that this nation state loves them. Steve and Debbie, thank you. Thank you for what you live with. Thank you for so beautifully living up to him. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Peace, God's peace to you always. Thank you.
I'm not going to be able to get through this day with any makeup on.